Okay, now that I have this grid here, I can do a number of things with it. I can render this grid to Photoshop. To do that, I can just go in this menu here, choose Render Grids to Photoshop, and OK. And now you can see that back in my regular Photoshop document, on my new layer, I have this grid. And what I can do with that is, let's first label it so I know it's there. I'm going to make a new layer and place it under the grid, and that will allow me to paint in perspective. So if I wanted to say add a window, I can just follow these lines and use it as a guide. It could be any size I want. Again, I'm holding shift, so click, hold down shift and click again, allows me to make a straight line, if you're wondering how I did that. And the brush tool. So that's one nice thing about this grid system. Another thing I could do, I'm going to throw these layers out and go back into vanishing point. Be sure I make a new layer first. And go to filter vanishing point. So then I have my grid again. And this time I'm going to make a selection of something and move it around in perspective. So with the selection tool, I'm going to grab this window right here and put it into the position that I want. And to copy and move this, I hold Option or Alt on a PC, and then I can drag this around in perspective. So I'm going to just bring it up here. And I actually want to cover the sign. So first I'm going to bring it up here. I'm going to grab this transform tool. See, I hover over it and you can see it's a transform tool. And I'm going to just pull this over here. So it's like flipping it horizontally. I'm going to zoom in to make sure that I line up these horizontals correctly. And be about right there. I just did a Command D to deselect, and it also took me out of the transform tool. Now it looks pretty good. This isn't exactly accurate over here, but because this is on a new layer, when I get out of vanishing point, I can clean that up later in my Photoshop document. But before I do, I want to clone a little bit. So I'm going to grab the clone tool. Again, to clone, you have to select the target area first for a source. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And I'm going to option click to choose my source and then just start cloning. Let's try that again. And in this vanishing point, the clone tool will turn corners with me. So change planes when I did here. Also, if I came up here, I could paint this shadow down if I wanted to, for example. So it's pretty nice. And I'm going to option click again to continue this down. I'm just lining up this line with this vertical pipe right here, just to make sure that it's in the right perspective vertically also. And then I'm going to just choose a couple different areas to blend this in. And now when I zoom out, it looks pretty good. There's a little bit of a line there, but I can clone that later, or fix that later in Photoshop. So if I like the way this looks, all I have to do is press OK. And now I'm back in my Photoshop document. And all that work that I did is on a new layer. If I turn the bottom photo layer off, you can see that these are, again, like everything else, it's just pixels on a new layer, so I can do anything I want with that information now with my regular Photoshop tools. For example, I can come over here and clean up this edge in a number of ways. I can either just erase it, like so. Or I could do a layer mask. Undo that a couple of steps, and come back here to the layer mask, and then with the brush just paint in the parts that I don't want. Which it basically has the same effect as an eraser, except it's temporary, it's non-destructive. So this isn't exactly accurate. The shadow here should be on the other side because I flipped it from this. So I can fix that in a number of ways, and I'll do that in the next video, basically. So that's the vanishing point tool.